Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game from the final round of this year's FIDE World Rapid Team Championship. It is Arjun Erigaisi versus Luke McShane, Team MGD1 versus Malcolm's Mates. It is board 1 and it's quite a spectacular game with a very interesting pause the video moment. Even though I could have chosen pretty much any position, the game is very rich. I decided for what I've decided, as usual. So let's dive straight into it. Arjun Erigaisi, of course, everyone knows him. Luke McShane, we've had him quite a few times on the channel. You know, he's as they say, the world's strongest amateur chess player, even though he's over 2,700. Does finance by day and, you know, fights crime by night. So let's dive straight into it. Arjun with white opens with pawn to d4, and this is very well the game that could decide the outcome of the championship. So d4, or rather the outcome of who wins the tournament. d4, we have knight to f6, pawn to c4, e6, knight to c3, and bishop to b4. The Nimzo-Indian defense is on the board, and whenever we have the Nimzo, I always say, okay, e3, queen to c2, that's the main stuff. You could also go for some knight f3, maybe f3. You could even play something like a6. It's a bit of an older variation, but still very much played in tournaments, even though nowadays it's like the 6th most popular continuation. But no, here we have pawn to g3. This is the Kasparov system or the Romanishin-Kasparov system. And in terms of how often it gets played, maybe like the 8th most popular continuation. So Arjun really testing Luke McShane's theory here. But, you know, if anything, Luke should be more well-versed in some of these older lines than maybe the new ones. I don't know how much he follows modern theory, but okay, g3, and okay, we do have a situation on the clock, 15:28, and Luke replies with castles, pretty much, you know, 14:46. Okay, he did actually spend 40 seconds on this move, so he, I guess he wasn't that sure how to continue. Okay, bishop to g2, we have knight to c6. Very rare move. Usually d5 is played here, and quite a lot of games here. Here we have knight to c6, and now pawn to e4. And already pawn to e4 is a new move, so already as of move 6, we have a completely new game. There is one nice game I found, knight to f3. Richard Rapport played it to defeat Ryazantsev. But here, yeah, e4, completely new game. Now let's see what happens. We have the immediate pawn to e5. He's inviting Arjun to execute d5, because if you go d5, then he wants to play captures, and after captures go knight a5 and the usual Nimzo stuff. But here after e5, d captures on e5 by Arjun, knight captures on e5, and knight to e2. Okay, preparing castles, maybe go king h1, maybe f4, so, you know, pretty weird setup. d6, castles, and pawn to a5. We have pawn to b3, preparing to fianchetto the dark square bishop. Bishop to c5, now aligning the bishop with the king here on g1, and pawn to h3, signaling that he might be interested in not going king h1, but maybe even king to h2. Rook to e8, and now king to h1. King to h2 might not be all that impressive, as you immediately could run into some sacrifices with knight captures, and then if h captures, for example, knight captures with check king h1, and now you have the standard setup of the bishop controlling this diagonal, so you can never play f3. The knight is very nicely placed here, and the queen could come into the game at any moment. You know, could be very annoying. So after rook e8, king to h1 seems more appropriate, and pawn to c6. We have pawn to f4 by Arjun, kicking away the knight, knight to g6, and now queen to d3. And here, rook to b8 was played. And this is sort of a theme of this game, because b5 has to be played. And I'm just going to show you what kind of a crazy move b5 is, even though it seems like it cannot be played. You're controlling b5 3 times as white here. But look at this. C captures on b5, C captures, knight captures, and now knight captures on e4. And all of a sudden, it seems like black, you know, has no idea what he's doing. But the point is that if you capture the knight, then black gives up the rook, and if queen captures, you don't have bishop to b7. That's interesting. But you do have queen d7. And now look at this. You're attacking the knight. You're threatening bishop to b7 to win the queen. But more importantly, you're threatening queen captures on h3, which is mate in 1, as the bishop controls this diagonal. So this would be, I mean, what a line. It's not forced, though. You don't have to capture the knight. White could also just play pawn to f5, and then the game continues with something like knight to f2 check. Okay, rook captures. First you attack the queen, knight to e5. After the queen moves, you pick up the rook on f2, and it's a really, really crazy game, but black has definitely equalized. If something like knight captures on d6, you can even go bishop to a6, you give up the rook, knight captures, queen captures, and, you know, some sort of a bishop to b2 goes after the knight. Now you could go after white's queen, you could go knight to d3, you have it nicely defended by the bishop, but black's bishop pair is really, really nice here. So that's, you know, one thing that could happen. I'm not saying that it should have been played. It's a rapid game. Of course, players don't have all the time in the world to analyze, but this is a chess channel. I imagine you guys like seeing some cool lines. So rook to b8, Luke prepares pawn to b5, but now Arjun says nope, knight to d4. And you can't really play b5. Now the c6 pawn would hang. So okay, knight to e7 defends the c6 pawn, and bishop to b2. And now again, you should strike with pawn to b5, but Luke prepares it. Bishop to d7, we have rook a to d1 by Arjun, and queen to c7. And now Arjun says, all right, you're not really doing anything on the queen side. I don't see anything happening in the center. You've taken most of your forces away from the king side. Let's go after that black king. Pawn to g4. And now, while you can play b5, it doesn't really do all that much. So here we have rook b back to d8, pawn to g5, we have knight to h5, and queen f3. Now, no other choice, you have to play pawn to g6. So pawn to g6, but now this diagonal becomes black's main problem. And Arjun should play knight c to e2, but it's very hard to see why. You have to control the g3 square. He played pawn to f5 right away, and Luke failed to capitalize on this. It's not that he's better or anything, but he has a chance at a game if he strikes with d5 right away and claims that g3 square. For example, f6 or whatever you play, doesn't really matter. You run into this very nasty knight to g3 check, and now you're just going to lose the game. So you would have to play something like a rook to d3 here. And okay, the game continues, but you know, it's not pleasant. The problem with allowing knight to g3 check isn't so much that you will lose this rook, but let's say knight g3 check, you're going to play king to g1, and now d captures on e4. Look at this. And after knight captures on e4, and now you have to choose. Either you capture on e4, and then this knight comes into the game, you attack the queen, or you decide to capture this knight, and then, okay, the knight is just defended, and it's a, you know, really, really tough position for white. The material is equal, but white's king is completely busted, and it will be a very, very quick death for white here. So after pawn to f5, we have rook to f8, and now knight c to e2. Arjun realizes that, okay, g3 has to be covered. Luke does execute now pawn to d5, but it no longer matters. C captures on d5. We have bishop to d6, gaining more control over that g3 square, but now f6, attacking the knight, knight to c8, and now I imagine you guys check out the thumbnail before clicking the video, but in case you don't, you know, feel free to pause the video and find what Arjun played here. I imagine you did see the thumbnail, but just in case, knight to e6. And it's a you know, beautifully disgusting move, or disgustingly beautiful, however you want to put it, because if the knight is captured by a pawn, it's a matter of a simple f7 check, and that's it. The bishop completely opens up. All you can do is capture it, and then queen captures is checkmate. So that's not going to work. After knight to e6, you could also capture with the bishop. Maybe, you know, even black's best chance, because after, let's say, d captures on e6, you can capture with the f-pawn. Now the queen and rook are guarding that f7 square, but after h4, it's hard to even find the move for black. For example, knight b6, you can play bishop h3, you go after the pawn, okay, queen defends it, and again, equal material, but black without any real hope of a game. The a5 pawn is weak, the knight has nowhere to go. This knight can never re-enter the game. It's completely covered, so it would, you know, just be a matter of time before white completely takes over the game. So after knight to e6, queen to b8 was played, which is a nice idea, but the position is just too weak. Now Arjun just grabs material, knight captures on d8, rook captures on d8, and pawn to e5. Gives up a pawn to open up the position, and Luke's main problem is now that the king is very, very weak, and there's just no way to avoid checkmate. Bishop captures on e5 was played. There's really nothing better. Bishop captures, queen captures, and d captures on c6, opening up the d file so you cannot capture with the bishop. B captures, and now even knight to f4. We have queen captures on g5, and now knight captures on h5. G captures on h5, and finally queen captures on c6. Of course, Arjun's queen cannot be captured. If you capture it, then it's just a check followed by a mate. So after queen captures on c6, queen captures on g2 was played. One last attempt. I think, okay, it's a silly move to play, but it's a team event, so, if maybe once in 1,000 games it works. I've seen it happen. I've seen, crazier stuff work. Maybe Arjun captures with a king and then captures the queen, comes with check, so you don't lose the rook on d8. But of course, Arjun just captured with the queen, delivered a check, and he was in this position on move 33 that Luke McShane resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Once you move the king, it's simply a matter of queen g7, king e8, and queen g8 checkmate, and that's all there is. So yeah, beautifully played by Arjun, and not only that, Team MGD1 wins the World Rapid Team Championship, as Ivan Šarić also lost on board 4 to Pranav. It was a very beautiful game by Pranav with the black pieces, and yeah, they also won on board 6. But even without board 6, it would have been enough with Arjun and Pranav winning, with boards 2 and 3 being a draw. Yeah, beautifully played by Arjun, impeccably played by Team MGD1. They were the strongest team coming into the competition, and they have proved that they are definitely the strongest. We'll see how they do in Blitz. And as usual, if you have any games that you would really like to see, do use that hashtag suggestion, because I always go over all of your suggestions. So, hope you enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Arjun. It's like, he had that run of half a point out of the 5 games that he played, and now over the last 4 games he got 3.5 out of 4. So he definitely bounced back, he recovered, and he even played some weird G3 systems against the Nimzo. But you can see, against someone who maybe does not play chess as often, works quite well. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Brian Willits, Obakan Grafela, Norman Duda, Justine and Olaf Love Chess, and Mohammed Babar Khalil for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.